let's make a foot together. So this is coinciding with my tutorial on making people. So there's an armature that I show how to do. This is a look at that armature and how the foot was made. So the original person I made had a boot on. This one will have no boot on, barefoot. For those of you who want to do the same person, except for you don't want boots, you want maybe a sandal or barefoot. So this is what I do with the leg. I kind of bend back the area where the ankle would be. That will help your person stand. It won't stand fantastically, but it'll help it. You don't want the foot part, that wire that's sticking out there, to be too long. Otherwise, when you're making the toes, you're going to be cutting into wire. Now, once that wire is cut, for this particular person, that foot right there, that piece of wire is only about 1.25 inches long, but the foot will be longer than that. So just take into account, depending on the size of your foot, you want to gauge it on how you cut that wire with that. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap my foot with wire. Wool, excuse me. So I use just a glue stick, and I cover the wire part with it. I'm just doing the foot. I'm not going to do the upper part of the leg at all. I do add a little bit of wool for the leg, but just barely, because this is really just an example of what you would do. And I wrap that area. You want to wrap it pretty tight. And just make sure everything is covered up to the toe. Well, not even the toe, the end of that wire. We will add the toe area in a second. And then once you do that, you're going to take a piece of wool and you're going to set the wire on that piece of wool. The piece of wool will be about 1 inch wide by 2 inches long. And this is going to be what you start to form that foot with. So you set it down on your felting surface and you're going to fold over the front. The front part where you fold over it, you want to leave some room between the wire and where you fold. That's going to be where your toes are. So you want to give yourself about a 1/2 inch gap between the two. And then you want to fold over all the edges and where the ankle is. And then you want to build it up just a little, add some more wool, but don't get it too thick. And then once you do that, you really want to take some time and firm all of this up. So I'm doing the original shaping with a 38 gauge needle, and then you want to switch to a 40, and then even a 42 gauge if you have one in your arsenal, because shaping those toes at the end, the firmer that wool is, the easier it's going to be. So just take some time and really work on firming everything up, and then I will show you the next steps. Now that this is all firmed up, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to give it a little bit of an ankle, just visually so we can see what's going on here. And I just take a small piece of wool and I'm going to lay it on the back, and I'm going to firm that up. And then I'm also going to thicken up the toe area and do a little bit more shaping. And once that's done, I can start adding toes. All right, so now that it's fairly firm, you have a couple things you could do. You can add some shaping for the ankle, little balls here for right there, but it's not necessary. It just kind of depends on how detailed you're getting, and really if you're going to be exposing a lot of the foot. So, you know, if the person's wearing pants, you don't necessarily have to have that part. So to add the toes, you can just do little cuts. Make sure you really calculate and think about where you cut so that in the end, the pinky toe isn't really small or really large. You could kind of draw it out first if you want to, very lightly, and then cut. You will need a fairly sharp pair of scissors to do this. And then once you have it done, you can go over it. I recommend doing a 42 gauge needle. Anything much thicker is going to be fairly hard to firm these up and make them more noticeable. Because right now, even though you can see it from far away, you can't really see that those toes are there. So just use a 42. 40 might work. I mean, it will work. It'll just be a little bit more irritating because what it's going to do is it's going to compress that wool so much more than a 42, so it disappears more. Whereas a 42 is going to kind of firm up the outer parts, not the inner parts as much, which allows for more detail work. those toes are all firmed up, you can take a marker. This is the easiest. You could use wool, but I like using a marker, especially on these tiny little feet, and just draw in your toenails. You can make them bright pink. You could make them just really light, natural. You could do all sorts of colors, whatever. Have fun with it. And there you have it. There is your foot. Of course, if you wanted to add a little bit more detail to it, you could. You could, add more knuckle. You could do a lot to it. But for the simplicity of the project, this is perfect. And remember, if you want to do the whole person, you can go ahead and head to Rustic Fiber Academy, where I show how to make a detailed person from start to finish.